Hello everyone, this is our recap of Kids Worship for October 4th, and once again this is for both families who may have been absent and for families who were there during the week, or for life groups to review and try to apply what we've been learning about this week. So if you remember from last week, we had what we could call the Battle of Mount Carmel, which is interesting, and no one fought, but it was a showdown between prophets of Baal and Elijah, who was the prophet of God, Big G God. And God showed up in a major way with fire and then with clouds, which brought the end of the drought. And so things are looking good, at least at the end of the story. It seems like things are going okay. But if you remember also, we talked about Ahab. Now, Ahab had this really mean, evil wife named Jezebel. And Jezebel's not happy. Jezebel's not going to take this. She's not happy that Elijah has basically won the battle, but it was really God that won the battle, but she's blaming it on Elijah. So she decides, because she's the queen, that Elijah must die. That's her decision. She can do it because she's the queen. So Elijah is afraid. Naturally, he's afraid, and he runs away. He runs off by himself out into the wilderness a little bit. And at first, God kind of lets him run, and he sends an angel to give Elijah bread and water a couple times in between Elijah sleeping. So he makes sure that he's okay. He has bread and water. And so finally, Elijah winds up at a cave. And God finally tells him, hey, go up on top of the mountain. So Elijah goes up on top of the mountain, and there are three events back to back. There's an earthquake, a great wind, and a fire. But God's not in any of those. And finally, God speaks to Elijah in a very soft voice, we call it a still small voice, and tells Elijah to go back, basically showing him that he's with him. He hasn't left Elijah. Doesn't matter how powerful Jezebel is or Ahab is, God is with Elijah, and God is more powerful than anything. So, a couple things here. We often want to hear God in these big ways. We want God to show up loudly and powerfully, but God sometimes speaks to us in calm ways, ways which we do not expect, ways that catch us off guard a little bit. Also, it is perfectly okay to be scared, no matter who you are, as long as you don't forget that God is with you. So, how can we apply this week? I want you guys as a family or as a life group, take a sheet of paper and start either writing or drawing things that each of you are afraid of. These can be simple things, these can be big things, just anything. Things that seem silly to somebody else, but I know people who are afraid of clowns. A lot of people are afraid of clowns. I don't get that, but that's what they are. They're afraid of clowns, okay? And for each thing that you write down, each thing you could be afraid of, or that someone in your group is afraid of, go in and try to think of something that would help that, make it better. For example, let's take a couple of examples. So this past week I shared the story about being on the raft and being afraid I'm going to pop out the boat and fall out the boat into the water. So for that I might draw or write down a helmet and a life jacket. Because if I have those two, even if I fall in the water, I'm not going to hurt my head and I'm not going to drown. Makes sense. Let's say you're afraid of getting lost. You might draw a map, a little bitty map. Because if you have a map, you're not going to get lost. I've told some of you that when I was younger, I was pretty majorly afraid of dogs. All dogs. I've since gotten better with that. But I might draw a leash, because the dog's on a leash, then it's not as scary. Well, as you do this, think about also some of these fears that you've listed are probably going to be bigger fears. Things that something is not necessarily going to help except for God. For example, some of you know about what happened yesterday in South Carolina. There was a lot of flooding. And some of you also may know that I have family in South Carolina, and I was really scared that something was going to happen to them. And in that case, there's not really anything that could help that except for God, through praying, through remembering that He's there, things like that. So if you can't think of something that would make the fear better, just write God. And see how many fears have something that can make it better, and how many fears need God. Because a lot of our fears, God is the only solution. And God is not going to leave us. That was the promise that He made. He said He's not going to leave us. It was the same promise He made to Solomon when they built the temple. He's not going anywhere. This is the same promise, but it's towards one person, towards Elijah. He's like, I'm not leaving you. Go back. And we're in the same spot because Jesus promised not to leave us. when he left. Some of you parents probably know the Great Commission, Matthew 28. This is not leaving. I'll be with you always to the end of the age. So kids should remember that too. That Jesus said He's not going to leave us. He's still here, and He's coming back, and that's awesome. And so we will continue with our story of Israel next week. In the meantime, hope you remember what we learned about and do this activity together, either as a family or as a life group. And parents, it's a great opportunity to share with your kids maybe some experience that you had that really made you scared when you were younger or when you were older, and how God helped you through it. See you guys next week. Bye.